Hello, everybody. Wild Man Z here, and I want to talk about some new cool things that I found at the local comic book store. I heard about these online, and I went into my local comic book store, and I found these really awesome Marvel facsimiles. I can't say it, but I sure as hell love them. This is a copy of X-Men 129. This came out in 1979. This is right about the time I started collecting comics. I was I guess around 11 or 12 years old at the time. My mother used to let me go to Genovese, which was a pharmacy in New York. It was real popular, like a chain. And she'd give me a few dollars, and she didn't give me a few dollars. She maybe gave me $1, $2 tops, and I could get a few comic books. I maybe did this once, twice a month. I always got the Avengers, and I always got the Fantastic Four because I wanted to get as many comics characters as I could at one pop. I was doing it, and they were great stories. It was, like a lot of it was like Jim Starlin and Bill Mantlo, people like that. I didn't have enough money to get some of the other good titles at the time, and this was pre-internet. I had no idea what the good titles were, like Conan and so forth. I was not really a DC guy. I got turned off by the Wonder Twins early on, but somewhere in there, maybe in the first year or so, I discovered the X-Men. It was not this issue, it was issue number 131. So this is 129. I actually got this a month or two later. I ordered from Mile High Comics. They were around back then. My mother gave me some money, I guess, for Christmas or something, and I ordered some off the mail. So I picked up X-Men 131, and I fell in love with the team really all through the 80s into the early 90s, so all throughout the Chris Claremont run. When they changed the comic style in the early to mid-90s, when they became, the really big panels, and, it went glossy, and the Scott Bakalo style art, or whatever his name is. I'm not really into that type of art. I love the classic guys. I love Byrne and Cockrum, those type of artists, Don Heck, those type of dudes. I really couldn't feel a lot of the newer artists in the 90s and the 2000s. I really like the old school comics. Now they're too woke for me. If they change, I'll go back to them. But I really love this. I have all the originals of these, but they're kind of hard to read now because even though I keep them in, I don't know what the condition is, it's probably like fine condition or so. The ink tends to bleed out over time, and the coloring kind of fades. And I have them also in some giant-sized compilations, like the omnibuses. I know I have this in the omnibus, but the omnibus is kind of bulky and it doesn't have the advertisements. This kind of feels like the comic, except it's nicely recolored. The inking is beautiful. The pages are good quality paper. Great story here. This is the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga and the Hellfire Club story, which is kind of interwoven together. They're just getting off the Proteus saga here, which was a story with Maureen McTaggart had a son, and I forget if she was Xavier, who it was from, but the child ended up being a super powerful mutant who could warp reality, and Colossus ends up, spoiler alert, killing him in the fight because he was that deadly. Somewhere in there in the issues, we're in the 120s, we're in the late 1970s here. Claremont, who was really good at weaving together plots, started to weave in these villains called the Hellfire Club. They were mostly mutants. Sebastian Shaw, who was in one of the movies. Pierce, who was actually not, I don't believe he was a mutant, he was a cyborg. Overweight guy by the name of Harry Leland. And let's see who else. There was somebody, and then Jason Weingard, who was really mastermind in disguise. They were this underground group of villains who basically had, machinations of controlling the world type of thing, who posed themselves as members of this rich club, and they would kind of be the inner circle type of thing. It was a really good story, and Jason Weingard basically psychologically reaching out to Jean Grey, who's recently become the Phoenix, and basically transporting her back into like some late 1700s motif, and he's her lover, and he's kind of trying to seduce her to make her the Black Queen at the Hellfire Club because he recognizes how powerful she is, but I don't think he realizes quite how powerful she is. This is probably one of the best comic book arcs, the Dark Phoenix saga, Hellfire Club. That whole Claremont run, particularly him with Byrne, they were on fire. all those stories in there, the Proteus saga. They went to the Savage Land, the Hellfire Club / Dark Phoenix saga, Days of Future Past. There's some of the best comics, in my opinion, going, definitely from Marvel. I'm not a DC expert. And then Claremont's run, the rest of the time, especially I love, Dave Cockrum's art. I loved later on Silvestri. He had some great runs. The guy was absolutely fantastic. But I really love these comics. I'll just show a few more, and maybe sometime we'll go over an issue or two if people like comic books. I don't have many viewers. I just do this for kicks. This is the next issue in there. This is 130 with the Dazzler. I have the original of this. It's somewhere in a box in New York. But again, hard to read. Really cool. We meet the Dazzler, the Disco Dazzler, as I like to call her. We also meet Kitty Pryde in this issue. It's kind of like two characters, at least especially Kitty Pryde, who've been retained. I was just rereading this one. This is came a little later. I was in my 20s, I guess, mid-20s or so. This was in the late 80s, early 90s. This was a great issue of X-Men. It's number 268. We learn that Wolverine actually knows Captain America. I was like a big, wow. And the Black Widow. That's a great issue. It has Nazis in it. Baron von Struck is in it, and some other Nazi type characters. And it was a really cool adventure with Cap and Wolverine. We learned how they had a relationship going back to the 1940s, which was kind of cool. I also read the other day, this is the first issue of Wolverine's comic from about 87, 88. It's fantastic with Silvestri's art, and I believe Claremont's writing it. Really cool cover. I love Silvestri. That's not Silvestri. That's John Buscema. Excuse me, that's John Buscema. But anyway, I'll talk about one of these particular issues in the future. If there's the 5 people to watch this, if they want to hear about comic books, and I love it. On that note, Wild Man Z's out. Have a good night.